Join Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio, the host of Only the Best for You. Be a change maker and unlock the secret to your best life.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carol Davies. Welcome to my weekly podcast called Only the Best for You, here on Global Voice Radio. Each week, I bring you topics about being a change maker in the world and in your own life. Starting change is as easy as changing something in yourself that you really want to change, to become a better person, to learn a new skill, to help others. The list is endless. Gandhi said it best, be the change you wish to see in the world. It feels appropriate today to talk about how we can take our lives in hand for success. This week, we have episode 49 with all sorts of tips and suggestions about goal setting. I'm calling it Hopes and Dreams, I'm on My Way, Part 2. I shared some ideas with you last week in the same title in Part 1, and I'm going to be continuing on with some more suggestions that I hope you find useful this week. The end of 2018 is here, and the beginning of a new year, 2019, is on the doorstep. It's natural to think about what we have accomplished this year and what we hope to achieve next year. So, one way to do this is to examine and formulate our goals. In my previous podcast, episode 48, I looked at the concept of setting goals, and I'd like to review that for you. Well-formulated goals are a key element of success. When goals are worded properly, they can be powerful in their influence on your ability to make positive changes. There are 5 main components in well-formulated goals. The first one is small. Small goals are by definition feasible. They can be accomplished within the next week or so. Large goals are understandable, but cannot be achieved in the immediate time frame. To accomplish a set of small goals, 1 or 2 weeks at a time is much better than to be defeated by a grandiose goal, no matter how worthwhile it may be. The next component is measurable. When goals are worded vaguely, we do not know when we reach them. When goals are concrete, it is obvious when they are achieved. For example, if you have a goal to be happy, reframe that into smiling more. People know when they are smiling, and so do family members and other people around them. Being happy is much harder to define. And goals should be positively worded. When goals are worded in the negative, such as the stopping of something, for example, I will stop arguing with my husband, the goal itself reorients you to the problem behavior. On the other hand, if the goal is positively worded, I'll keep my voice down when I disagree with my husband, it has a stronger positive effect on behavior. And number 4, the goal should be chosen by the person who's working on the goal. Well-formulated goals are chosen by the person involved, not a family member, coworker, helper, or friend. Many people have well-meaning family members, friends, and authority figures telling them what they need to do. It's difficult to maintain self-respect and control of your change process when that happens. If someone tries to choose goals for you, kindly tell them that you appreciate their help, but will decide on your own goals when you are ready. And Number 5, goals may take hard work. Making changes, even small ones, are difficult. By reminding yourself that it will take hard work to achieve your goals, you're being realistic. This will help prevent feeling like a failure if it takes a long time to accomplish the goal. Goal setting is equal parts art and success. Many people create goals that simply don't work. If you're in business, you don't have the luxury of creating goals that don't work. You need to work effectively, and you need goals that help you do just that. I'm going to just briefly go over another way of setting goals, and that's called the SMART goals. They keep you on track. The acronym SMART reminds you of what each goal needs to be. The S stands for specific, the M stands for measurable, the A stands for actionable, the R stands for realistic, and the T stands for time-oriented. If your goal is specific, it needs to be stated in a way that is clearly delivered. Saying I should work more is not a goal that will be kept. However, saying I am going to work a total of 8 hours each day is a goal that is much clearer and specific and easier to achieve. If the goal is measurable, this is closely related to the above specific attribute, except that it also includes a way to make sure you are on track. A goal that says, I want to make more money, isn't measurable. However, a goal that says, I want to earn $6,000 a month is a far more measurable goal. It's easy to see at the end of the month whether you've achieved it. Now for the word actionable. This means that your goal should be something that you need to do yourself in order to accomplish it. If you want to increase your income this year, it's not realistic to say, I'm going to win the lottery this year, because you have no control over whether you will win the lottery or not. However, you might say, I'm going to increase my sales effort by cold calling 10 people each day, which is something you can act on yourself. And realistic. Goals that are achievable are much better and far more motivating. You'll feel better about yourself when you do hit goals than if you constantly shoot for them and fall short. Realistic goals should not be so easy that you hit them every single time, but should not be so hard that you never reach them at all. And finally, they should be time-oriented. Like the measurable attribute, your goal should have a time frame for you to accomplish it in. Deadlines help people achieve their goals. If you anchor your goal to a time, you'll be able to watch your progress. You can remember this with the acronym SMART, so that when you're creating goals, you can create better goals for yourself. This is a very popular goal-setting acronym in business, although occasionally the words are changed slightly to reflect the needs of the business. And while the word SMART may seem like an acronym to follow one step at a time, when you apply it, you'll find yourself jumping around sometimes. Be prepared to change your goal several times as you refine and understand it more deeply. Now, there's another method of goal setting that I would like to discuss, and it's called backward goal setting, using backward planning to set goals. As the name suggests, the principle is to work backwards from what you want to achieve. By working backwards from your end target, you can then establish all the steps that will be required to take. If your goal is to become an account director within the next 5 years, where do you start your planning process? Or if your team needs to redesign the company's organizational structure, where do you begin? In planning, most of us would usually start building our plan from start to finish. What do you have to do first, second, third, and so on? And by what date does each step need to be completed? This is a typical project plan. And this is also easily transferred to personal goal setting. The backward goal setting is often used in education and training. The idea is to start with your ultimate objective, your end goal, and then backwards from there to develop. By starting at the end and looking back, you can mentally prepare yourself for success, map out the specific milestones you need to reach, and identify where in your plan you must be particularly energetic or creative to achieve the desired results. It's much like a good presentation when the presenter tells you where he's headed right at the beginning. Then, as the presentation unfolds, it's easy to follow the concepts and think critically about what's being said. If you must figure out the main points as they come, your energy is often used up by just trying to keep up. Now, here's a straightforward way to explain the backward planning process. Here's how it works. Step 1, write down your ultimate goal. What specifically do you want to achieve and by what date? Step 2, ask yourself what milestone you need to accomplish just before that in order to achieve your ultimate goal. What do you have to do and by when so that you're able to reach your final objective? Step 3, then work backward some more. What do you need to complete before that second to last goal? Step 4, work back again. What do you need to do to make sure the previous goal is reached? Step 5, continue to work back in the same way until you identify the very first milestone you need to accomplish. That's essentially where you begin. When you read a backward plan, it doesn't look much different from a traditional forward plan. However, creating a backward plan is very different. You need to force yourself to think from a completely new perspective to help you see things that you might miss if you use a traditional forward-looking chronological process. This can also help you avoid spending time on unnecessary or unproductive activities along the way. Furthermore, it highlights points of tension within the plan, showing where you'll need to be particularly creative to make the next step successfully. Now, here are some key points. On the surface, backward planning or goal setting doesn't seem much different from traditional goal-setting processes. You start with a basic vision and then ask yourself what needs to be done to achieve that vision. You can read your plan from the beginning to the end or from the end back to the beginning. Backward planning, however, is more than reversing the direction of your traditional plan. It's about adopting a different perspective and perhaps identifying different milestones as a result. It's a great supplement to traditional planning, and it gives you a much fuller appreciation of what it may take to achieve success. After all, the more alternatives you have, the better your final plan will likely be. Although it may seem like wishful thinking, this goes along the lines of begin with the end in mind and Then think about what steps you might take to get there. Even though we might not follow exactly the steps we have anticipated, having a clear idea of the end result helps us to see the opportunities that may present themselves along the way. This method will quickly demonstrate how realistic your goal is within the time frame you have chosen to work with. Now here's an example. Let's suppose today is March 28th and your goal is to present the new corporate website at the next user group on May 12th. Your first step in the backwards goal setting process would be to consider the high-level activities to attain this goal. The end result is present the new website to the user group. But before that, you would have to gain management approval. And before that, you would have to sign off on the new website. Before that, you would have the first draft of the presentation. Before that, you would define the project team. And then beginning, you would get approval and buy-in from the IT team. Once this has been completed, the next step of this process is to consider all the required activities that this would involve, highlight any dependencies, and then finally define necessary timescales for each activity. So the end result would end up being in a fairly detailed table, and it could include 3 columns such as the goal is the overall, then the details for each step, the dependencies around each of these details, and then the time scale. Excuse me. So using this method, you can swiftly identify your key milestones and any dependencies that may exist for your goal to be achieved. By working in this manner, you may also detect activities that otherwise may have been overlooked if you had not been using the method. Those who favor this method of goal setting also feel that it keeps you focused on working effectively and incorporates only those resources you currently have at your disposal. By concentrating on the activities in this backwards manner, you are not distracted with unnecessary activities and discern only those that contribute to fulfilling the goal. It doesn't matter what system you use or how you use the system to set goals, forwards or backwards, as long as you set your goal. That's the bottom line. One important thing for me when I set goals is that I make my desire unconditional. Try these questions. They're a great way to discover if you need to get conscious of who you are and what you're doing. Here are some questions. Is there a gap between the person I am and the person I need to be to achieve my goals? What do I need to add to become the achiever I know I can be? What do I need to take away? And when you're thinking about the goals you've set, ask yourself, does my happiness rely on achieving my goals or on taking action to achieve it? Is my pleasure linked to the journey or the arrival? What must happen for me to feel happy and successful? Am I committed to winning now and winning later? And finally, ask yourself, what am I trying to create and why? These are the questions I ask myself when setting goals. It's part of the goal setting framework for me. then I can work forward or backward, whatever is the easiest. So I do hope that some of the tips that I've given you in today's podcast will be of benefit to you. And if you want any further information or want to talk about more ideas with me, contact me through my website, www.thepassionmotivator.com, or by email at coachcaroldavies@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And remember, you can change your life at any time and become the success you want to be. I look forward to connecting with you again next week. So Happy New Year for 2019, and it's been a great 2018. Thanks so much for listening to me.
Tune in every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern for Only the Best for You with Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio.